Today we have CA Chandhrashekhar sir, who is the who heads the peer review board, and we also have our own Kota sir. So I request chairman to escort the peer review head to the dais and request Kota sir as well. I request the Vice Chairman Divya to come on to the dais. I request our Chairman to give a welcome address.
Respected Chief Guest and our own Central Council Member Chandhrashekhar V sir, Central Council Member Kota Srinivas sir, Vice Chairman Divya, Secretary Pramod, MC members and my dear professional colleagues. Happy morning to you all. Happy morning.
Happy morning.
I welcome you all for this one day's training program for peer reviewers. Peer reviewers, you all know, so object is that as you introduction session you have attended, peer review is only making streamline our own family members among our senior members. We will review one to one among us because we want to maintain the quality of audits and documentation. It's not any outsider is coming and doing a peer review audit, but only among our professional colleagues, those having experience in their audits, senior members, because minimum 10 years practice experience should be there to become a peer reviewer. It's not institute is not providing any assignments to chartered accountants. So please keep it in mind that it's not assignments assigning from the branch. It's only cordial relation we have to, as Guru sir said so many times, juniors will get the audit of senior members. Cannot say it's wrong or right or something, but you need to follow checklist and polite mannerly you have to conclude that peer review to maintain the quality of the audits. Because sometimes I receive a message and mail saying that I am an empaneled member, I am not getting any audit. It is not the rule. You are not empaneled to get compulsorily audit. And you are not having a much high-end audits experience. You worked in a very small and medium firm and expected to review a big audit firm. It's very difficult. Either if you are not done, you upgrade yourself, go for a peer review, or be away from that. And one more, recently we are getting an updation that from 1st of April, most of all the firms has to get peer review audit. They have to, if you are doing a test function, you compulsory you have to get peer review certificate. That is also there. Because outside the world is always evaluating what is the quality of the work done by the chartered accountant. That is the reason. Anyway, AQMM, audit quality maturity management, that also is implementing slowly. It may become redundant peer review also over a period, but you have to take it sportively. If you get an assignment, well and good, do. So many times when you go as a peer review auditor, you will also learn so many things. What we have not followed, what you have not learned, we can learn from them. It's not that you are like a boss or police, as Guru said. It's a cordial relation among the fraternity members And any members those are interested to MPNL, we have given an application form in your delegate kit. Please fill and submit to us. We'll send it same thing to the Central Council member. I don't want to take much time because our Chairman Peer Review Board Chairman Chandrasekhar V is there. He is going to address you. Once again, welcome you all for this program. Thank you. Over to
I request our Vice Chairman, CA Divya, to introduce our Chief Guest and Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Pramod. A very warm good morning to each one of you present here and to all the dignitaries on the dais. It's my privilege to introduce today's chief guest for today's program, CA Chandhrashekhar V, sir. By profession, he is chartered accountant. He is practicing as a chartered accountant and senior partner in CA Chandhrashekhar & Co. He has done his BCom, LLB, and he is also an FCA. He is member and also Central Council member of ICA from 2022 till now. He was also Central Council member for the tenure 2019 to 22. He is Chairman Direct Tax Committee and Chairman Peer Review Board of ICA. He is member Group on multidisciplinary firms of chartered accountants, financial and tax literacy, etc. He is also former Chairman Corporate Laws and Corporate Governance Committee and former Vice Chairman Committee on Public and Government Financial Management. He is member of various standing and non-standing committees including International Taxation Committee, Indirect Taxation Committee, Valuation Standard Boards, Accounting Standard Board, Auditing and Assurance Standard Boards, Internal Audit Standard Boards, etc. He had been member Managing Committee of Pune branch during 1988 to 91. He was also chairman of Pune branch for the year 1988 to 89. He was also vice president of Pune Chartered Accountant Society for the year 1997 to 99. With this very brief profile, I introduce before you all our chief guest of today's program, Chandrasekhar V, sir.
Thank you, Divya, for the wonderful introduction. I know we have already started our technical sessions, but as a Bangalore branch program, we start the program by inaugural of light. So let's start today's training session by lighting of the lamp. I request dignitaries on the dais to come forward, and I request the MC members of the dais to come on the dais. I request even Guru sir to come up on the dais.
सुप्तेषु जागृति य एष सुप्तेषु जागृति कामं 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 कापुरुषो पुरुषो निर्विमाणः निर्विमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तदेव शुक्रब्रह्मा अस्मिन् लोकः अस्मिन् लोषः शतः सर्वे तनूनां यदि कश्चनान्यपि कश्चन एतद्वैता
Now I request our Central Council member, CA Kota sir, to address the members.
Namaskar. Good morning to all of you, all the peer reviewers. As the word says, peer reviewers, we have to review our peers. There is a fellow chartered accountants, and already it has been spoken by Guru Prasad, and it will be spoken by other speakers throughout the day. I don't want to get into the peer review technical aspects. Coming to the chairman of this particular board, peer review board, Chitale. Welcome sir, welcome to Bangalore, for coming here and addressing our members and giving your thoughts or the thought process of the council to share with all the members over here. He is also the member of the chairman of Direct Tax Committee. In fact, we should really appreciate his efforts, because this guidance note on tax audit was revised in 2014. After 8 years, he took special interest and he revised the guidance note on tax audit. I think a round of applause he deserves. It's a humongous task. I know how to get the people and how to revise each and every line has to be read and revised. When you give a guidance note to the members, it's a really a great responsibility on the council. He has done that and he has promised that every year he will revise the guidance note. I hope all of us will support him and he can do it every year. Coming to the representations wherever required to the CBDT has been giving. In fact, we have not asked for any extension this year. We decided even I think in February itself before the council, I told him we should not ask for any extension this year. And as such, we have not asked for any extension. Government on its own extended. We from the institute, we are clear that we will not ask for any extension as such. So that's also we have written a letter to CBDT. But only the request is the form should be ready on 1st of April. So any form should be ready on first day of the assessment year, and law should be ready on first day of the previous year. They should not keep on changing the previous year, the law and also the form. That's our request to CBDT. Then we will not ask for any extension. So if they want extension, then let the clients ask or let the trade association will ask. As chartered accountants will not ask, but these two conditions that form should be ready on 1st of April, that is first day of the assessment year, and law should be ready on the first day of the previous year. There should not be any change either in the law or the forms. That's how we have been coordinating with CBDT, but of course you know that it will take some time to get into that mode, but we had not asked for extension, they themselves gave. Recently we have given this pre-budget memorandum. We had a presentation to CBDT, sir only presented to the CBDT chairman all our pre-budget memorandum proposals from the institute. We hope that will be considered in the coming budget. And even in peer review, a lot of changes have happened. We have discussed now from 1st of April, there is a requirement where for certain companies, wherever you have partnership firms, more than 5 partners, peer review is compulsory. So those details we will share with all of us. Of course, as was said, this peer review is, of course, it's only a review. It's not an audit or investigation as such. But having said that it is a review, you cannot take it lightly also. Whether he is a senior or junior. If he has done mistake, we have to point out that these are all the shortcomings in this peer review. Otherwise, there is no scope of having peer reviewers. Just you are a junior, he is a senior, nothing like that. Whatever is there, as per that this thing norms, whether he has maintained or not, you should be bold enough to give the comments. Whether we take action or not, that's different. But as peer reviewers, you have your right to point out the mistakes or point out the shortcomings. I'm not saying the point out the mistakes, but having said that, as the Guru was telling, some of the latest developments like digital working papers, that also we should be aware of. We should be appraised of those things and then do a good job as such. Since this is becoming compulsory from 1st of April, there may be more opportunities for peer reviewers in the coming days. I hope all of you will take it as a challenge and help the institute and also your fellow members to see that they maintain whatever the required documents in a proper manner. Thank you once again for being with this, for attending this particular conference. I hope at the end of the day you will be enlightened with more knowledge on theory. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Chairman CA Chandhrashekhar V sir to give an inaugural address.
Not a presentation, only inaugural address. No, you give only the inaugural address. No, you finish.
Before I hand over the stage to him, I would like to make a small announcement. As a part of your delegate kit, you have this application form to become the peer reviewer. Members who are interested may kindly fill the form and submit accordingly.
Good morning, friends from Bangalore. It's indeed a pleasure to come here for the first time to address on topic relating to peer review. Honorable Chairman of the Branch, Srinivasa, his team members, Pramod Hegde, Divya S, my council colleague, Srinivas, speaker for the earlier session, Guru Prasad, and also speakers for subsequent session, and all of you ladies and gentlemen. It's indeed a pleasure to engage with you on the topic very important from our professional perspective of chartered accountancy, because as you look at our profession, maybe we have digressed more into taxation, into management services, into computers, internet and so on, but then basics come from accountancy and auditing, and the attest function is at the core of our profession. So we cannot be more focusing on other areas, because all the bread and butter, if you look at the other areas, we excel because we have understanding and we have expertise in accountancy and attestation. As far as this peer review is concerned, this peer review concept is not very old, not very new of recent origin. In fact, those who are married will appreciate one seasoned person told me that the peer review starts from your home affairs. If you want to know any limitation, not only of yourself, but of your entire khandan, then you have to just tell your wife that today sambar is not prepared properly, and then you will know all the limitations which you can overcome. But then, friends, it's again a peer review. So when some tamarind powder, some chili powder is less in sambar, it's not that you announce to the public at large. Only at home you tell Amma, put some more tamarind powder, put some more coriander, and then the things turn from sour to sweet. So you have to add salt to make that food more sweet. That is the whole concept of peer review. Now it is extended in all walks of life, and for profession also, we have embrace this peer review concept. Now in this case of peer review, as you know that we are focusing only on attest functions, that as I said that our profession is digressed into various parts apart from accounting and auditing. So here in peer review we are focusing only assurance function or auditing and nothing beyond that, because stakeholders are relying on the certification that we provide, because ultimately what we say audit is, the audit is assigning accreditation to the financial statements or the information furnished and which relates to finance. and it is of utmost importance that a chartered accountant certifying those financial statements, the information, either offering audit report or giving some certificate, the stakeholder should blindly rely on his certificate. Vayesh Malikam, the former president of our institute, told that strength of any institution doesn't come from your size. Maybe as an institute we are second largest. Maybe Bangalore is the largest branch. The strength also does not come from the power you wield, because as a council member, as a president of this particular institute or branch managing committee, you have a lot of power. But that is not the strength. The strength comes from the dignity and the esteem that people have for you. That is the tenet of strength, and that is the tenet of our profession. So we should always be having quest to enhance that dignity, and this peer review is one step in that direction. In fact, this particular momentum of peer review, institute started on its own, but now it is gaining more importance because of authority assigning importance to this particular phenomena of peer review. Let me tell you, decade ago, SEBI, the Securities and Exchange Board of India, in respect of listed entities, made a condition that unless an enterprise or the practice unit is peer reviewed, it shall not be able to accept the audit assignments of listed companies. So that was the beginning of peer review being formally recognized and made mandatory. Thereafter, even as my council colleague Srinivas told, that from 1st April 2022, this peer review has become mandatory for our professionals. And we have not made it mandatory at one go, but it will be mandatory in a phased manner. And there are 4 phases, 4 annual phases. To those I will come when I am making presentation, or even other speakers also may cover if the time is not adequately available at my disposal. Thirdly, last month we had meeting at Comptroller and Auditor General of India, and where we were told that up till now you are filing forms for empanelment, and those forms are giving quantitative information about a practice unit. How many partners you have, how many staff is there, how many branches. But then what about qualitative information? Because you'll appreciate that qualitative information is more important than quantitative. Quantitative is also important because organizational strengths are reflected. However, ability is reflected through the qualitative information. So please give us the parameters where we can distinguish practicing units based on dispensation of quality work. Now presently there is no such mechanism that we have any authority or any board that assesses this quality aspect. So on its own, the CNDG told us that you have peer review mechanism. So in this peer review mechanism, can you add those parameters of quality? We are still at the thought process on this aspect, because the country of such a length and breadth, so many peer reviewers, so many practice units, ultimately when assessment of quality is made, it has to be on a uniform basis all across the country. It is not that in some parts the peer reviewers are little liberal, in some parts they are strict, and then objectively we are not distinguished between the quality parameters or the marks that are awarded. So first we have to think of what are those parameters which are amenable to objective assessment, and then make them mandatory. You also can provide us inputs that okay, these are aspects which you can consider for such quality assessments. But then in the interim, the CNAG told that as far as peer review is concerned, as it is being conducted by the institute, we will assign 40 marks for this peer review. So if the firm is peer review based on its cycle, out of 40 they will get marks. So in their marking system, the peer review will appear as one of very significant parameters for the purpose of awarding the audits. And as was informed by CNEG, that maybe CAG is making appointments of public sector undertakings, but then that list is used by various other government-owned or government-controlled enterprises, state government enterprises, and so on. So it is very important for a practice unit which is engaged in assurance function to have good marks at this CNAG environment, and peer review is going to be one of very significant attributes. Having 40 marks were indicated, they are not so far announced. It may vary here and there, but the importance lies by the fact that CNAG indicated that they want to assign 40 marks for this particular peer review. So friends, this is the gamut of peer review. Again, it is not the external agency which is doing some assessment. So whenever guests are coming, before offering any dish to guests, you first test on your own, or you ask your family members to test, only because of the fact that whatever you serve to the guests, that is of appropriate taste, appropriate quality. So peer review is that. Before you are exposed to any authority, any disciplinary mechanism, any regulator, it is better that your own colleague tells you, hey, here is some limitation, maybe you can improve. As far as improvement is concerned, post facto improvement may be possible in some cases, because as you are aware, our quality assurance standard says that maybe within say 60 days you have to compile your files for documentation. So some leeway is there, but it is not much. I have seen in case of tax audit, maybe there are partnership firms, there are proprietors who are doing tax audit of a particular enterprise, maybe in small and medium practices, friendship, relationship are the attributes where you get the assignments easily and initially. So you are doing this tax audit maybe for 10 years, maybe for 8 years. And if somebody asks, where is the appointment letter? You find the appointment letter is missing. So these things happen in practice, but hereafter that will not survive. Because even as far as taxation is concerned, even as far as audit of corporates are concerned, there are various regulators which are working with scanner whether there is any error. Because with the signature of chartered accountant there lies credibility, and if the trust is disrupted, there is no go for the purpose of doing any audit. In case of taxation, Central Board of Direct Taxes now assesses each and every tax audit report. Let me repeat, each and every tax audit report, and the deficiencies are called out. And this is possible because of technology. So they have programs, and wherever the tax audit reports are beyond certain parameters, those parameters are left open, and then they are checked, and wherever they find deficiencies, and they list out those deficiencies, and it is shared with the institute. Earlier they were just sharing and telling institute to be cautious as far as those members are concerned, let them be cautious. However, subsequently they said that we are just sharing the deficiencies, and these are not mere deficiencies. Errors are on one hand, like supposing you forget to put not applicable, or some column is left blank, that is on other hand. But wherever there are mistakes, then revenue also suffers. So you have to take action against those earning chartered accountants. Institute felt rather than straight away acting and taking professionals to disciplinary mechanism without screening would not be appropriate. So Tax Audit Quality Review Board was constituted, and this Tax Audit Quality Review Board now screens each and every deficiency which is pointed out by the CBDT. Advisory is given where they feel that the error is not so serious, or it may not be having much financial impact, tax impact. But in certain cases where they find that there was gross irregularity, the law was not appropriately appreciated, even disciplinary case is recommended to the council. SEBI. Now SEBI is also sitting with a microscopic view. If you are not following any IFRS, any Ind AS, any accounting standard, then definitely SEBI and NAFRA are raising red flags. And those cases are also referred to the institute. And institute has constituted FRRB to review those cases. Now gone are the days that non-compliance with Ind AS or accounting standards is pointed out by some government official, class 1 official, class 2 official, and sitting in non-block, sitting in NAFRA, or sitting with SEBI. Gone are those days. Now, SEBI and NAFRA are engaging professionals, those who have worked in chartered accountancy firms, those who are experienced with doing listed company audits, and such vast experience, maybe more than 10 years, to them they are giving assignments to review the financial statements. And friends, let me tell you in this call that whatever deficiencies now are pointed out by NAFRA, really in most of the cases there is non-compliance with Ind AS or with accounting standards or with disclosures. So it is indeed very useful and order of the day that before SEBI or NAFRA knocks your door, you are made aware of limitations, and wherever possible, maybe if it is permissible to overcome those limitations, one can do so. Prospectively, definitely those limitations can be overcome, but in the given assignments which are accomplished, if it is related to documents, if it is relating to such appointment letters, etc., maybe you have some papers missing in the file, there may be some help, but where really reporting has gone erroneous, one will have to face it. But ahead of the regulators pointing out, it is in your own interest that you subject yourself to peer review. In fact, as a chairman of peer review board, we receive several requests. In earlier years, I was told the request is, please appoint my friend as a peer reviewer, so that if there are 10 errors, maybe he will point out only 1 or 2, and then I will be sailing in safe waters. But please try to understand, if your friend glosses over your 8 errors out of 10, you are not sailing in safe water. Actually, you are going to face a big problem in days to come. And now, with all these regulators being more sharp, being more vigilant, now the requests are coming. You appoint that reviewer who will really point out each and every limitation, so that I get an opportunity to overcome those limitations. Because it is always better that your own colleague, chartered accountant who is in practice, maybe he is having better experience than you, richer experience than you, more exposure. He points out the limitations. 8 years you are doing the thing in the same manner, and then you realize that it needs some improvement. So if a person having greater exposure would only be able to do that, not necessarily your friend. So now the requests are coming that we don't want my friend to be appointed. You are given 3 names, but all the 3 are my friends. So maybe due to goodwill, due to affection, they may gloss over some of the errors I don't want. Or even if appointed, they tell their friend that, okay, friendship outside we will have hearty coffee, outside but not within the office. In office you point out each single error. And I want really to introspect what needs improvement in my organization. So friends, with that objective, now we have come out with revised guidelines on peer review. I will not deal with those guidelines elaborately, but I will bring out certain salient features of those guidelines, certain background, and then maybe if there are any issues, let us address those issues. As chairman was saying that, okay, I have qualified as a peer reviewer, I am not getting peer review assignments. There are some issues in my firm's peer review. So if time permits, or we will keep time for that, we will discuss that also. As has been announced that, okay, for peer review empanelment forms are there. Yes, forms are there, but it is not just attending seminar that qualifies one to be a peer reviewer. Besides attending seminar, one has to also qualify a test, and that test is not like CA finance, you will certainly appreciate that. But then ultimately it is seen the awareness, and after seeing that awareness, one qualifies to be a peer reviewer. That also we will deal with. So thereafter, you can empanel yourself as a peer reviewer. Even in case of your own firm, you would be able to take home a lot of information. And since Bangalore branch is the largest branch, I would also request the chairman that maybe at quarterly interval, if you have group meetings of such peer reviewers and they share their experiences, maybe everybody from the group would be enlightened, and if those experiences are published in nutshell, others also from the branch would know, okay, what are the best practices that were observed and what were the limitations that were observed by reviewers in general without really giving names. So as a profession, we would be able to enhance the quality, and also as a peer review board, we will also like to take that particular literature and publish it for the benefit of all the members from India. So with this background, now let me come to the PPT on guidelines. Since earlier Srinivas said that okay, I am also chairman of Direct Tax Committee. So maybe after question and answers on peer review, even if time extends, maybe for 5-10 minutes, I will also deal with certain aspects of direct taxation. And if you have any issues, maybe you can give them in writing or offline, we can consider them. So friends, as far as this peer review guidelines are concerned, they are issued in the year 2022, and from 1st October 2022, these are now mandatory. So all peer reviewers hereafter being conducted for the peer for the practice units as well as for peer reviewers and for institutes. The whole field has been captured in these guidelines. Earlier, the things were scattered, some were statements, some were directions, some circulars were there, committee was taking some decisions. So now we have dispensed with all this, and really I felt that if we want to have some serious approach to peer review, let us have one concrete guideline. And these guidelines are the Bible for peer review. Even a chairman peer review board cannot travel beyond these guidelines, the council cannot, has to ensure this. And if in rightful circumstances one feels that those guidelines need amendment, that amendment can be done only by the council and not by the peer review board. For example, if the peer review certificate expires, then earlier there was no provision for the purpose of extension of the period of validity. And then there were problems for listed companies to get listed company audits. And this phenomena of not getting second cycle or third cycle of peer review done or first cycle was not because of any limitation of practice unit, but because of the pandemic. One was not able to offer the record for the purpose of peer review, or the peer review was not able to visit the firm. Documents were scattered at one office and the other office, and therefore there was necessity to extend the validity. But that power is not with the peer review board. So now the new guidelines have conferred that power, but that power again restricts to 60 days, not beyond that. And now take example that similar pandemic, God forbid it will not come, but just for the purpose of example, similar pandemic comes and it is there for 120 days. So at that time the 60 days time limit may not be sufficient, one will have to extend beyond that. But that PRB cannot do on its own, the board cannot do on its own, they will have to go to the council, convince the council that this particular regulation needs further relaxation, and if council considers appropriate, it will be relaxed. So that way these guidelines are come and everybody is now subject to those guidelines. So let us consider them. So as you are aware that the peer review board was constituted in 2002. The first chairman was government nominee and vice chairman was Honorable Shri T.N. Manoharanji, and thereafter the journey of peer review has started. However, it got much momentum after the Securities and Exchange Board of India made it mandatory. Up till now, it was till 31st March 2022, it was voluntary, and those which were doing listed company audits, they were religiously getting the peer review done. But other than those, there were only limited enterprises which were subjecting themselves to peer review. Considering the quality aspect and the stakeholder interest, the institute has now made it mandatory in 4 phases. As you are aware that the CA Act was amended last year, and last year one new clause has been added as far as the jurisdiction of council is concerned, and that clause says the council can issue guidelines for the purpose of carrying on objects of the Act. The objects of the Act is to regulate the profession of accountancy and development of accountancy profession. So in order to ensure to have more stakeholder acceptance to the audit reports and auditors functioning, this peer review is now mandated under this particular clause, clause 15(2)(FA). This 15 2FA became operative from May 10, 2022, and these peer review guidelines have been issued on 1st October 2022. Whatever peer reviews that were pending on 30th of September 2022 midnight, all of them will be covered under these new guidelines, and there is a transitionary clause. And hereafter, if anybody wants to talk about peer review, about his own unit, about conduct of peer review guidelines will be providing everything. Apart from these guidelines, we are also coming out with manual. The earlier manual contained reference to earlier standards and earlier practices. So now this peer review manual is also under revision. With that, we will come out with whatever are the things in vogue as far as technical, professional and ethical standards are concerned. So soon it will be ready. So these guidelines are available. One copy I have, I will leave it with the branch. And also these are available on website of peer review board. Now let me come to the salient features of this guidelines. What are the changes as opposed to the earlier era? Earlier, if one practice unit wants to initiate peer review, they were either sending SMS or mail or WhatsApp message, whatever, or telephone call and telling that, sir or madam, we want to subject our practice unit to peer review, and thereafter the process started. Then the form was given, confidentiality, the peer reviewers were appointed, confidentiality declarations were taken, so it was consuming more time. So it was thought appropriate that let us formalize this concept, because one doesn't know whether how many applications have come through email, to WhatsApp, to telephone call, orally. So now the form has been devised. We have now 10 forms appended to these guidelines. Form 1 is the application cum questionnaire. So whatever questionnaire was subsequently given, on day 1 itself the entire information is available with the peer review board. So this application form has to be made, that is to be made online to the peer review board, and that sets in the process of peer review. If one follows the process which is laid down in those guidelines, in 20 days the peer review should be concluded. So that is the way in which it is designed, because compiling this form also takes considerable time. So after you think that you want to initiate peer review, you will get the form and then you try to fill up the form. It extends the timing. So what we have done, to curtail the time limit, on day 1 itself we are taking the form. And then within 20 days, we have stated within 20 days the peer review process has to be complete. It is possible that the peer reviewer who is appointed may have some problems, and therefore after commencement of peer review he may not be able to devote adequate time, or the practice unit, they may be engaged with certain important assignments that they are not able to provide the documents to the peer reviewer. So in this case, this 20 days deadline will not be met. So what will happen? Then we will think of extension. Again, for extension you will knock doors of peer review board that please extend this particular deadline of 20 days by 10 days, by 20 days, by 30 days. What peer review board is going to do? They are not here to appreciate whether it is appropriate reason, inappropriate reason. So you are your own judge, because peer review is in your own interest. It is not in somebody else's interest. So what we have done for extension, it is not the power of peer review board that you seek permission for extension for peer review board. Peer review practicing unit and peer reviewer should come together maybe at the end of 10 days, 15 days, and if they feel that considering the development of the assignment we believe that we need 15 more days. So what change we have made, that for the purpose of extension, peer practicing unit and peer reviewer shall write one form. That form is also given, and both of them will sign that our this particular time limit was to end on 5th of January 2023, but we need time till 28th of January. And peer review board will simply file it. They will not have to approve it. It is just intimation, and that intimation will be accepted. So again, we are dispensing with this procedural delays. So authority is with the practice unit itself. Then validity of peer review certificate. In earlier statement, there was no validity. So peer review certificates were issued as open certificates. Maybe the peer review certificate is issued to you in the year say 2010, then till that date people were considering that okay, that peer review certificate is valid because the certificate did not contain that it is valid only till this date. At a later part, the certificate started stating that this is for this period for 3 years, but now in rules we have made it obligatory that peer review certificate will be valid for 3 years, and at the end of 2.5 years you should once again reinitiate the peer review, so that by the time your earlier certificate expires, your subsequent certificates would be available. And although I have not stated in guidelines, I have made internal procedure that peer review board at the end of 2.5 years from issuing the certificate should write to the practice units that your peer review certificate is getting expired within 6 months. So please gear up for next cycle, and if you gear up in time, maybe there won't be any time lag between the expiry of first certificate and receipt of subsequent certificate. Whenever you complete peer review, the subsequent certificate will be issued for 3 years after the expiry of the first certificate period. Now consider an example that there is a firm with say 10 partners, 15 partners doing lot of audits, and there are such 2-3 firms from various places or maybe from same place, and maybe 5-6 partners out of such firms who are doing audits for 10 years, for 15 years, they feel that they should come out and they should form their own firm, and then they should accept audit assignments. In that case, there is a condition of peer review that at least there should be tail of at least 12 months of assurance services which can be reviewed. After the review, you will get the peer review certificates. Now what happens with these newly constituted firms, or there is a firm which is existing for 10 years, but for 10 years they were giving services in taxation, maybe in management consultancy, internal audits, and they have never entered the area of attest function, audits or assurance services. So for such unit, trail is not available of assurance services, so peer review cannot be conducted. So there is a dilemma that unless I have peer review certificate, I cannot accept meaningful audits, and unless I have meaningful audits, I cannot get peer review certificate. So to break this jigsaw puzzle, what we did that for new units also we will issue peer review certificates, and that will not be for 3 years, but that will be for 1 year. And for awarding that certificate, some criteria has been laid down that maybe partner of that particular firm was partner of a firm which was subjected to peer review, or he is aware of peer review. So such criteria are laid down, and based on that they will be given this peer review certificate for 1 year, so that their assurance service doesn't remain a non-starter. It starts, and then after 1 year, when the trail is there, they will be subjected themselves to peer review. So data would be very limited, so maybe depending upon the data available, subsequent cycle certificate may be for 1 year, maybe for 2 years, and at the end of that cycle they will get regular certificates for 3 years onwards. But then the limitation of not being able to accept audits maybe of listed enterprises, and hereafter when this peer review is becoming mandatory in 4 phases, not being able to accept any company audit, this particular limitations would be overcome. Then level of practice units. Under old regime there were 2-3 levels, and depending upon level the validity period was decided. Now we have done away with this level, and we have said that for all practice units across, the validity period of certificate would be 3 years. Then as I stated, the total review period would be 20 days, and again I have talked about extension, that on your own you can seek extension. Then acceptance from declaration of confidentiality. I noticed that there were certain procedures which were creating impediment in the quick disposal of this peer review process. After getting the form, then they were giving these peer reviewers. Then from peer reviewers, the institute was taking confidentiality declaration, and then the peer review process started. So now what changes we have made is now, and again those who appeared for such seminars, appeared for the test and qualified, all of them were employed as peer reviewers. It is possible that some of them are not interested in being peer reviewers, they are attending only to know how to have peer review for their own firms, how to gear up for subjecting their practice units to peer review. So they may not be interested in doing peer review. So we are seeking a proactive response from professionals that after attending the seminar, after qualifying the test, if you are interested in being a peer reviewer, then you will be appointed as a peer reviewer to make an application. Along with that application, we are taking declaration of confidentiality, that whatever information comes to my knowledge about the practice unit of which I am doing peer review, I will not divulge that information to anyone. And in either case, even under our code of ethics, he is supposed to do that. But additional precaution we are taking. In earlier regime, that particular declaration was received by the institute and it was kept. I believe that if at all that confidentiality is not kept and some information is leaked, so there is no locus standi with the institute really to fight it, because institute may not know, institute may not be having adequate data. But the practice unit whose information has been leaked would suffer. So now what we have done, we have at the time of application we are taking one confidentiality certificate and no more to the institute, and at the time of acceptance of this assignment, the peer reviewer will give confidential certificate to the practice unit. So that if the confidentiality is not here, that practice unit will have cause of action against the peer reviewer, and they will have this particular confidentiality declaration handy, which they can take to the appropriate authority. So we are cutting short the time so that really the peer review can be completed within 20 days. We are also coming out with this manual, as I stated. The manual will state what are all documents you have to keep ready. So if you keep reading those documents, the peer reviewer can function seamlessly. So that way we have made certain changes. Then it is possible that maybe the firm is from Bangalore and they are having a branch at New Delhi, Kolkata or maybe Mumbai. If you appoint peer reviewer from Bangalore, there may be costs required to be incurred on travelling, stay at Kolkata, at Delhi or maybe at a distant place. So that may not be much feasible. So a new concept of branch peer review has also been coined. So maybe a firm having headquarters in Bangalore, branch in New Delhi, and they want to have peer review certificate for the firm. So both the units will have to be subjected to peer review. But if they so opt, they can also appoint a peer reviewer from Delhi, only for Delhi branch. So the Delhi branch peer reviewer will do peer review of Delhi branch and issue the report. That report will be considered by Bangalore peer reviewer and a consolidated report will be issued, so that the travel and out-of-pocket expenses are not required to be incurred. Reviewer selection. It is possible that maybe Bangalore is a large city, but if there is a small city having say 500, 700 members, 1000 members, and generally reviewer is given from the same city, so there may be some discomfort with that practice units, that the person with the branch of 700 members, some member from that branch itself conducting peer review, so they may feel awkward that their clientele, their secrets would be revealed to that particular peer reviewer who is potential competitor. So in that case, option has been given that maybe from other city you can recommend that, okay, I am at Belgaum, I would like to have peer reviewer from Bangalore. So that will be permitted provided you incur or you reimburse the out-of-pocket expenses of the peer reviewer from Bangalore. So that is also now option made available to the practice units. Then audit quality maturity model, as was discussed earlier, that AQMM is now mandatory, and going forward from 1st April 2023, the AQMM will also be made mandatory for all the units doing assurance function. Initially it will again be in a phased manner. So initially those enterprises doing this audit of public interest entities, to them this AQMM will be mandatory, and thereafter gradually considering the experience, for others it will be made mandatory. But where it is mandatory, even the questionnaire of peer review, so there should not be any separate review of this AQMM. Even peer reviewer himself will be doing this peer review, and the form also will include information relating to AQMM. There was one more condition in case of listed entities. Clause 43 of that listing agreement under LODR of SEBI. Certain aspects are required to be seen which are more detailed, more minute, as opposed to companies other than listed companies. So, to do audit of peer review of listed companies, the earlier condition was that the peer reviewer conducting peer review of practice unit for the purpose of SEBI or for listed enterprises, he himself should be auditor of certain public interest enterprise. So he is aware of Ind AS and that particularly clause 43 of listing agreement, etc. But then I noticed that the chartered accountants doing audit of listed enterprises may not be interested in doing peer review of other enterprises. So as far as this training is concerned, now training is divided into two parts. One is, this is basic training to qualify you as a peer reviewer, and after having qualified as a peer reviewer, if one wants to be peer reviewer of a audit firm doing audit of listed enterprises, then one separate training is there, that also you can consider sometime appropriately. So when you qualify that, undergo training in that module and qualify test, so clause 43, whatever is more required for this listed enterprises, because any announcement the company makes, supposing the ordinary company from Bangalore, if they are opening branch in Belgaum, they can just call our friends and say, okay, we are opening branch in Belgaum, that's all, or we are opening branch in Bombay. But for listed companies it is not. So first they have to notify to the stock exchange that they are making announcement relating to opening of branch at Mumbai, and then on an appointed day they have to make announcement, because there should not be any insider trading. So all these aspects which are peculiar to listed enterprises are covered in that subsequent training, and the certificate is issued, and thereby the person doing peer review is aware what is more required as far as documentation is concerned in case of listed company audits. So friends, these were the salient features. Coming to peer review guidelines, I will not deal with elaborately because we have sessions on that. But now these guidelines have got 7 chapters running from definitions, what are the what is the peer review process, how to apply, what are responsibilities of peer reviewer, what is the responsibility of this practice units, and so on. And various sessions will elaborately deal with it, so I don't want to repeat it. I will leave this, this PPT is available with the branch. You can take this PPT and you can study them on your own also. As far as forms are concerned, now we have come out with complete list of forms, like form number 1 is application cum questionnaire, form number 2 is acceptance from declaration of confidentiality, and then empanelment, etc. So all these forms will cover various aspects which are required to be dealt with in peer review. And our peer review guidelines, which are also available on website of peer review board, will furnish you what all forms are there. Then about mandate of peer review, as I have stated, that since 2009 SEBI has made it mandatory that if you want to engage yourself as auditor of a listed company, you should be subjected to peer review. So this is the mandate. And as far as ICI is concerned, ICI has made this peer review obligatory to all the firms, but not at one go, in a phased manner. So phase 1, which has started from 1st April 2022, covers those entities to which it is already mandatory under SEBI. So there is no extra burden, because for accepting listed company audit, you have to do under SEBI regulations. Now Institute has also captured that class. But from 1st April 2023, more firms would be getting covered, and then really the scope for peer review will increase, because in phase 2, persons doing attest function having 5 or more partners, they also will be covered for compulsory peer review. Then in next phase, 4 or more partners, and in 4th phase, even bank branch audit, etc. All those firms will be. So virtually 80-90% of the practice units doing attest function are getting covered at the end of 4th year for the purpose of mandatory peer review. So it is necessary that we have adequate peer reviewers, so that the work which would be forthcoming to this peer review audits would be taken care of. So friends, these were the important highlights as far as the new guidelines are concerned. If there are any issues relating to peer review which you want me to address, maybe for 5-10 minutes we'll consider, and maybe another 5-10 minutes I'll deliberate on direct tax matters. Thank you for patient hearing.
What is the latest change in the fees?
As far as fees are concerned, we have slightly increased the fees, but we have stated that those fees are recommendatory, it is not obligatory. So supposing where we have recommended fees of 15,000 and somebody charges 10,000, it's okay. Or even in case of big firms, maybe say upper cap is say 50,000 or 1 lakh, but considering the size of the firm, the peer reviewer feels that minimum 3 lakh rupees fee is appropriate, that they can charge. But just to starting point, there should be some framework. So some basic framework we have given, but it is again recommendatory, not mandatory. And there was one earlier condition that you have to tell the institute that fees are paid, etc. So now everything we have captured in those forms. So separate communication is not required. So even if somebody doesn't charge any fees, we have no issues. But then work done fee is not of value, so it's better than. Anything else? About peer reviewers, some getting assignments, some not getting assignments. There I have instructed that you work out for each branch, see who are the persons who have got repeated assignments and stop giving them assignments. Those who have not received appointments, give them appointments. And this is all with human intervention. Maybe when chairman is there, this will happen. If the chairman changes, this will not happen. So maybe from 1st February, we are gearing up for computerized program. So it will be beyond human intervention. So there will be equitable distribution of all assignments. Even this form, etc., the processing, that also we are trying to have this program. We are already in dialogue with TCS and some other enterprises. Soon we will close it, and we believe that from 1st February we should be in a position to have computer program for peer review board and also for allotment of assignments of peer review. So coming to direct taxes, as stated by Srinivas, that we have already made representation to the board. When I took over in February 2022 as the chairman, I wrote the chairman CBDT that hereafter ICI will not seek any extension provided you come out with forms on 1st of April along with schema. Whatever schema you release on maybe 1st April, 10 April, those schema should not be changed till 31st of July. Maybe if you come across any limitations on 1st of August, you change that schema and don't change till 31st of October. And we don't want any extension. And in my circular to the members, I have stated that it is counterproductive for the profession to really have this extension, because in case of extension, your time for the purpose of rendering services enhances, but your fees remain stationary. So your ultimately contribution reduces. And again, even for the purpose of doing your say this programs, seminars, or even for leisure, the time is limited, because if the due date is 31st of July and you keep on filing returns till December, then where you will enjoy Diwali, where you will enjoy Christmas, when you will go out of station. So it is always in the interest of the profession that let us adhere to the time limits. In fact, given a choice, I would recommend that if there is delay in furnishing return of income, let there be fees of 50,000 rupees. So not on 15th of September or 15th of July, but on 1st of April, clients will be at your offices and really in queue to ensure that their returns are filed within time. As far as pre-budget memorandum is concerned, I will deal with only 2-3 significant aspects. One is we have stated that for indirect taxes there is one country, one tax, one nation, one tax. So for direct taxes also there is time that there should be one nation, one tax. So particularly this agricultural income is kept beyond central government's power. So you may amend constitution, get it with the central government, because there is no justification that a farmer wearing rings in all 5 fingers and not paying tax, and a clerk from bank getting 5 lakh rupee remuneration paying tax, there is no justification. And particularly we have stated that in case of taxpayer, maybe whatever tax he pays till the age of 60 years, 2 to 5% of that tax paid you should invest in annuity, and at the end of after 60 years of age you should start paying him annuity, so he will not write off that tax payment. And secondly, out of individual tax paper, 90% are from employment sector, and it is not necessary that nowadays pensions etc. are getting removed. So maybe after conclusion of employment, they will have some support from whatever taxes they have paid, because as it is, government is not having any scheme for the purpose of pension and such other or post-retirement benefits. So that should be considered. As far as 36(1) is concerned, that employees' contribution to Provident Fund, we say that is barbarian provision, because ultimately it is expenditure for legitimate reasons, and if it is paid by 1 day delay, by 1 year delay, how it matters? Ultimately expenditure is incurred, so you allow deduction. So align it with 43B. Maybe you allow deduction only when payment is made and not to look after the due dates. But unfortunately, to this the response was very harsh. They said that if you have purchased ticket for a train and the train is leaving at 7 o'clock, if you go there at 7:10, the train goes, ticket is wasted. Of course, this was my first or second point, therefore I did not argue. Otherwise, had it been last point, I would have always told that if first train goes, there are several other trains where they take you to the destination. So maybe if I have not paid in time, whenever I pay, you give deduction. And if the income tax officer, he comes 1 hour late, you don't tell him that, okay, you don't come for service for life. So that cannot be the measure for discussing. And as far as charitable institutions are concerned, treat them as human beings, not as machines, because now the provisions are more harsh for charity rather than normal taxpayers. If supposing conditions under 11, 12, 13 are not met, but 10, 23C opportunities available, why not give deduction under that particular provision? So such principal provisions were made. Otherwise, clause by clause, we have made some 160 recommendations. And our initiatives, we are taking up initiatives for the purpose of publishing small booklets. And I am really telling small because for simple aspects like compilation of paperwork, drafting of grounds of appeal. So there are no publications which are available, or what are the various, or facing the faceless assessment. In case of faceless assessment, faceless appeals, maybe brilliantly you prepare 60 pages response, but be assured that if you prepare 60 pages response, not 6 pages will be read. So there should be a recommendation that besides preparing 60 pages response, because everything has to be on table, prepare 1-2-3 pages summary. So that summary will tell you, okay, what is the point, and if the officer is interested, he may look at your detailed presentation and take a decision. So such type of information for dispensation, we are coming out with those booklets, and our condition is it should not be more than 60 pages. Because if I give 600 pages book, then nobody is interested in reading it. But if I give 60 pages book and like preparation of first appeal, I am starting practice, or for last 2-3 years I have not done any appeal. If I read that booklet, I should be in a position to do appeal on my own. So that is the objective. And then 2 more publications we are coming out. One is on landmark judgments of Supreme Court and High Court, and another is landmark judgments of Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, which are of practical relevance. That will be published in January, and those landmark judgments in 2022. And really, if you must have seen that recently, while certifying 15 CA it stated that the chartered accountant is not expected to see genuineness, whether the service is rendered, not rendered. He has to see whether what is the bill, what is the description, and what is the tax rate applicable to that description, and whether that tax has been paid or not. So, such type of judgments having practical utility for professionals, we are trying to compile from your branch also. If you provide summary, and again, we are expecting summary in 1 or 2 pages as far as those judgments are concerned, and the citation. So that if that particular subject fancies me, I will look for details to that judgment. But in order to capture the crux of that judgment, 1 or 2 page summary would be sufficient. So such maybe 100-150 pages booklet for landmark judgments of Supreme Court, High Court, and landmark judgments of Tribunal. We are going to come out with publication, and I appeal your branch also to provide us inputs for this particular publication. And thank you for patiently listening.
Thank you, sir. It was actually a pleasure for setting the context, like having the peer review board chairman coming and speaking on what the expectation of the institute is. Definitely it gives us a very long horizon to what to expect from the institute. I request chairman of Bangalore branch to come up on the dais. We'll have a small felicitation program. So I request to come forward. I request the MC members of the dais also to come out from the dais. Thank you once again, and thank you for the patient hearing. We'll have a quick coffee break for 10 minutes and we'll reassemble back for the next session.